This is one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. I was an intern at a well-known company in 2013 when it happened. It was my first real job after graduating from university with a degree in English. The company was a large corporation that specialized in software development and system integration. They were very successful and had a great reputation. They also had a lot of government contracts, which meant that there was a lot of work to do. But they didn't have enough staff to do all the work. So they hired a bunch of interns to help out during the busy periods. I was one of those interns. My main responsibility was to proofread and edit documents. Most of the time I had to work overtime to finish my tasks on time. I didn't mind though because I knew that this was a great opportunity for me to gain some real-world work experience. I was also excited to see what it was like to work on a big project with a big company. One day I was asked to proofread a document that was over 200 pages long. It was a technical proposal that was due to be submitted to the client the next day. I started reading through the document and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was full of grammatical errors, typos, and formatting issues. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of mistakes. I knew that I had to fix them all before the document could be submitted, but it seemed like an impossible task. I was only one person, and I didn't know if I could get it done in time. I tried my best and worked as fast as I could, but as the hours went by, I realized that I wasn't making any progress. I was so frustrated and stressed out. I knew that if I didn't finish the job on time, I would let my team down. I could already imagine what my boss would say. "You weren't able to finish the job? What's wrong with you? You're nothing but a useless intern." His words echoed in my head and I felt like I was in a nightmare. Suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder and I jumped in surprise. It was my boss. He was standing there with a smirk on his face and a document in his hand. "Here," he said, handing me the document. "Can you fix this?" I looked at him in disbelief. "But you know, I can't finish that in time," I said. "Oh, don't worry," he replied with a sinister smile. "You won't have to do it alone. We'll help you." With that, he disappeared down the hallway. I was left alone in the office with the document and a growing sense of dread. As I read through the document, I noticed something strange. The text was moving. I rubbed my eyes and focused on the page, but the text kept moving. I was scared, but I knew that I had to finish the job. So I started typing away, but no matter how fast I typed, the text kept appearing faster. I was so overwhelmed and terrified that I didn't notice my boss standing behind me until he put a hand on my shoulder. "You're doing great," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Just a little bit faster, please." I nodded, my hands shaken as I continued typing. Suddenly, the lights went out and I heard a scream. I panicked and tried to make my way to the door, but my boss grabbed my arm. "Where do you think you're going?" he hissed. "You're not leaving until you're finished." I struggled against his grip, but he was too strong. He dragged me back to my desk and pushed me down in the chair. "Now get to work," he commanded. And that's when I saw it. My boss's face was pale and his eyes were wide with fear. He was staring at the document in his hand. Or rather, what was once a document, now it was just a blank sheet of paper. And then the worst thing happened. The paper started moving. It slithered and twisted, and then it struck me like a venomous snake. I screamed as I felt the burning pain of the paper cuts. I thrashed around, trying to free myself from its grasp, but it was too late. The dead internet had claimed another victim. It's 3 a.m. and you're watching this channel, so I assume you've heard of the dead internet theory. Basically that the internet died sometime in the early 2010s, and everything since then has just been an elaborate hoax perpetuated by a handful of people in server farms somewhere in New Jersey or whatever. But here's a horror story about the dead internet. I was born into it, so to speak. I grew up in the 2010s, and it was pretty normal at first. My parents got divorced when I was 4, and I moved with my mom and her boyfriend to their home in the suburbs. The boyfriend had a son, too. We'll call him Chad. Chad was 6, and he liked Call of Duty. I wasn't allowed to play Call of Duty, but one time he let me use his account, and I played a couple games. That's how I learned about the dead internet. It was a zombies map. There were 4 of us on a team, and we were playing against hordes of the undead. I was terrible at it, but zombies don't care how good you are. They just keep coming. At some point, one of my teammates left the game. It wasn't unusual for one of us to leave the game, but normally you get a fill-in. But this time, our 4th teammate was replaced with a bot. And I mean a real bot, like a chat bot. The other 3 players started screaming at this bot, telling it to kill itself. Then the screen froze. We were stuck on this one frame of the bot, standing in front of a wall with its back to us. That's when my dad came in the room. He looked at the TV and said, "What the hell?" Then he turned off the console and went out to the kitchen to get us some snacks. While he was gone, the power went out. When the power came back on, the TV was displaying the Xbox logo. My dad popped some popcorn, and we watched a couple shows on the Xbox, until my mom came in the room and said it was time for bed. This is where things get weird. After I brushed my teeth, I went to my room and turned on my computer. I hopped on my favorite message board. I remember thinking it was strange that no one was around. Usually there were hundreds of users on the site. I logged on and saw this one post on the front page. It just said hi, and it had 24 replies. I couldn't see the replies though. It just said this content has been hidden. So I made my own reply. I wrote a couple sentences and hit enter, but the message just sat there. It didn't send. I refreshed the page. Still nothing. I went to YouTube and tried watching a video, but all I got was this black screen with a white border around it. Same with Netflix. It was just a black screen. I called my friend, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I called my school to see if they had any internet, but their phone line was dead too. I didn't think much of it at the time. But looking back, it was really weird that all these public networks were down, but my home connection was still up. The next morning at school, I asked my friends if they could log onto YouTube from their phones, and they couldn't. But I could. I pulled up the video on my phone, and it was the only video on my channel. No one had ever seen this video before, and it wasn't set to private. I remember panicking a little bit because I didn't know what was going on. Why was I the only one who could access the internet? Was I the only one who could see the truth? I feel like I should say something here about how the dead internet theory is not true, because the internet is never truly dead. It's always there humming along. Even when you think it's down, it's still working. But sometimes you need to unplug from it, you know? Take a break from the comments and the drama and the constant stimulation. That's when you realize how fragile it all is. All of human culture and history since the 1990s rests on these servers somewhere in New Jersey. And without them, we have nothing. We're just a bunch of dumb monkeys screeching into the void. So I just want to say thank you to whoever keeps the servers running. You're doing God's work. And also, sorry if this video seems rushed. I had to write it really fast because I'm afraid someone might try to take it down. And if this video does get taken down, I guess that's proof that the dead internet theory is real. So take that, I guess. Hey, thanks for watching this video all the way through. If you're still here, I haven't lost all of my viewers yet. Leave a comment. If you made it to the end, say something like, I'm still here, or better yet, share this video with a friend. Have you ever heard of the dead internet theory? It's this idea that our memories of the early internet, like the 90s and early 2000s, were actually better than they really were, and that we just imagined them to be more fun because the internet has gotten worse as time has gone on. But what if the internet had always been bad? What if it just seemed better back then because we were younger and more innocent? I was born in 1993, and I spent most of my childhood in the early 2000s. And I remember vividly how amazing the internet seemed when I first got on it. We had dial-up at my house, but I would spend hours on my friend S56K connection, because their dad worked at an internet cafe and had a faster connection. It seems crazy now that the same Google search would take 30 seconds to a minute to load, but I would sit there patiently waiting for results. And when I finally saw them, I felt like I was holding the entire world in my hands. The internet was a place of wonder. It was a treasure trove of games, of quirky websites, of random knowledge. I can remember playing Papa's Pizzeria or something simple like Snake online for hours. I could learn about black holes or the Chinese language just by searching for it. I could listen to music, download ringtones, or even watch low-quality videos. The internet was amazing, and it was all free. And then it started to change. Around the mid to late 2000s, things began to feel different. Social media and smartphones started to get popular. It seemed like everyone was online all the time. YouTube sucked up all of my free time. Then Facebook came out with their super like button. Next thing I knew, I was spending hours every day liking my friends' posts and catching up with old school friends. Then it just became too much. All of my favorite websites disappeared and everything turned into Facebook. Even Google started recommending irrelevant results based on my profile. Everything changed. I didn't have the heart to tell my parents that I didn't want an iPhone for Christmas anymore. I didn't want to use FaceTime and I hated Facebook. It wasn't the same. But as I got older, I caved, and I got the iPhone. I made a Facebook account so I wouldn't look weird when people asked me. I tried to explain to my parents that it wasn't the same as it was before, but they just didn't understand. They thought that I was ungrateful. As the years passed, the internet just became a tool. It went from being this magical place to a necessary evil. I didn't go online for fun anymore. I went online because I needed to. I used Google to do research for school. I went on Amazon to buy things. I did everything that I had to do, and then I logged off. And I never thought about it again until the next time I needed it. One night I had a terrifying realization. I realized that I had been living my entire life through the lens of social media. I couldn't remember the last time I'd gone on the internet without any social pressure. I decided that I needed to see what was out there, what I'd been missing. So I went on the internet. I opened Google and typed in random things. Anything that popped into my head. But the results were boring. There were no quirky images, no random games. Everything was optimized and tailored for clicks. Every result was the same. It took me a while to realize what was happening, but eventually, I figured it out. The internet had become the same because we had killed it. As humans, we tend to destroy what we love. When the internet first came out, we used it for fun, for enjoyment, for wonder, but then we started to use it for profit. Companies started buying up all of the domains and redirecting them to their websites. The free resources vanished and everything became a pain. It happened slowly at first, but eventually it consumed everything. This isn't just some conspiracy theory. This is obvious. You can see it for yourself right now. Just go on the internet and do a Google search. And when you see those irrelevant results, when you see the same 10 websites on the first page, you'll know what I mean. The internet is dead and it's our fault.